Our tale begins inside a dilapidated shack within a forest, where we see a teenage boy named Denji wake up to begin another bleak day. As the young man walks through the quiet forest and down the silent road, we learn that due to the immense debt he's been lumbered with, he finds unconventional ways to survive. Whether it's an eye, kidney, or even one of his balls, everything is up for sale. This month's money-making endeavor is to find and execute a tornado devil. And when his companion named Pochita senses the creature nearby, the pair move towards it. Using his pet as a weapon after firing up its chainsaw, Denji quickly dispatches the creature. The young boy is swiftly brought back to Earth after the old Yakuza boss before him deducts all kinds of fees, fines, and debts from it, leaving him with a paltry amount for the rest of the month. A quick flashback shows us a younger Denji standing before a grave as the old Yakuza boss ominously tells him that his father's considerable debts are now his to shoulder. Now, all alone, the boy looks up to find a small chainsaw devil behind a tree. And though the creature growls at him aggressively, it eventually collapses from its wounds. Denji offers his blood to Pochita in exchange for its assistance and companionship, thus forming a contract between the two. And with the help of his new friend, the boy kills a devil and brings it before the old Yakuza, offering to slay similar creatures for them in exchange for clearing his debt. We see Denji and Pochita walking through a seemingly abandoned warehouse as the old man leads the way. One of the Yakuza's henchmen suddenly appears behind the young boy and thrusts a sword straight through him. Turns out that the old man made a contract with a zombie devil. But unfortunately for the Yakuza, the devil took the opportunity to turn all his men into mindless creatures who now serve it instead. And as Denji desperately tries to flee from them, he's soon caught by the zombies and brutally overwhelmed. Pochita and Denji's dismembered body parts are callously discarded into a dumpster. We then watch as the mutilated pet attaches itself to Denji's chest, causing the young man's body parts to slowly come together. And with a sudden thud of his new heart, Denji is brought back to life. The zombies swarm him once more, but this time, they're suddenly blown away in all directions as a creature with spinning chainsaws on its head and arms emerges. The chainsaw man brutally hacks its way through the scores of creatures in its path, eventually arriving at the zombie devil that it gruesomely cuts asunder. The following morning, 2 cars approach the warehouse. We watch 1 woman and 2 men approach the building to find the carnage within. They see Denji in the back, and as the woman named Makima fearlessly approaches him, she hugs the young boy without hesitation, causing the chainsaws on his body to melt away, revealing the human behind it all. We find Denji fidgeting nervously as he sits beside Makima on their way towards the HQ of the Devil Hunters organization. The woman intends to recruit Denji to her organization, however he's somewhat confused by her behavior as one minute she threatens his life, and the next minute she hands the teenager her coat and even offers to treat him to breakfast. Denji orders the most delicious breakfast he can, but before the food even arrives, he faints due to the blood loss suffered whenever his chainsaws emerge from his body. He soon wakes to find himself looking up at Makima. The gears in his one-track brain turn, and Denji quickly states that he'll need some help with the food. And as he's fed by the beautiful woman, for the first time in his short life, Denji experiences the kindness of another human being. Upon arriving at the Devil Hunters HQ, she offers him a uniform. And as he stands before Makima, we're introduced to his soon-to-be squad leader within this organization. We see Aki, a straight-laced by-the-book young man who wields an ominous sword. While the two patrol the streets, Denji continuously pesters Aki with personal questions about Makima. The Boy Scout takes Denji into an alley where he suddenly punches the teenager, knocking him into a pile of rubbish. And as Aki lights up a cigarette, we learn that in an effort to save the lives of rookies who he believes won't survive this job, he beats them up in hopes of getting them to quit. When he finds out that not only does Denji not take the danger of the job seriously, but that his true motive for joining the organization is to get closer to Makima, it further angers Aki, who flings his cigarette at the boy and even spits on him. As the Boy Scout walks away, confident that his message has gotten through, Denji rushes up behind him and kicks him squarely in the balls. And when Aki crumples to the ground, the crazy boy continues to tenderize his nuts. Later on, the pair arrive back at Makima's office, and when she asks what happened, Denji nonchalantly tells her that they were attacked by the Balls Devil. Their boss believes that the two are a good match, and so she tells Aki that Denji will be joining his squad of unusual devil hunters. We later see Aki in his apartment as the meticulous Boy Scout goes through his routine. Unfortunately for him, his new roommate is basically a wild animal. A few days later, back at Makima's office, we get introduced to another member of Aki's special unit. A fiend who may just be as crazy as Denji, the Blood Devil known as Power. The two are to be a team, and as they make their way over the rooftops of buildings to avoid any unnecessary attention, the bored fiend smells an adversary nearby. Power suddenly springs into action. She leaps off the building and then materializes a blood weapon which she uses to smash the devil before her into a pulp. We continue with the cleanup crew and our two troublemakers standing before their dangerously calm boss as she admonishes them for not only bringing attention to their operations, but also stealing the capture of a devil from a freelancer. That evening, we learn that despite her chaotic nature, Power is calm and even caring around cats. We discover that the Blood Devil has a pet cat that was taken from her by another demon. And though initially uninterested in her tale, the Chainsaw Man eventually learns that Power will do anything to get her pet back. And when the Blood Fiend discovers that one of Denji's wishes is to touch a woman's boobas, she offers a proposal. And just like that, the Chainsaw Man is fired up, cursing the dastardly demon who stole her pet and swearing that he'll not rest until the villain is made to pay. Later on, we follow the chaotic pair as they walk towards a remote house. And as they approach the building, Denji asks why Power isn't worried about the kidnapper seeing her and perhaps killing her pet. Her dubious response makes the young man suspicious. And as he prepares to defend himself, the blood demon conjures up a mallet and knocks him out. Power drags the unconscious Denji into the house, and once the doors close behind them, a great bat devil with a severed arm emerges from the shadows. A quick flashback reveals a scrawny-looking cat sitting before the naked and savage blood fiend. However, rather than running away, the cat seems to want to be around her. With her curiosity stirred, Power decides to fatten up the little feline before eventually feeding on it. But as time goes by, the Blood Devil develops an attachment to it. And as the two rest on the rooftops, the monstrous bat suddenly appears and snatches her companion away from her. Back in the present, the bat grabs hold of Denji and squeezes him like a fruit as blood pours into its mouth. However, Denji's blood tastes absolutely disgusting to it. Irritated by the foul blood brought to it, the bat decides to punish Power by consuming her pet. And as the blood fiend sadly looks on at Denji, the bat consumes her as well. As the bat flies towards a selected target within the city, Denji leaps onto its leg. The creature grabs hold of the young man once again, and as it prepares to crush him, Denji yanks the rope on his chest, transforming once again into the Chainsaw Man, severing one of its arms and causing both to fall into a building below. The petrified devil throws punches and launches anything it can get hold of at the young man, but the boy is unstoppable. And as the bat grabs hold of a human in hopes of replenishing itself, Denji emerges once more. The Chainsaw Man launches himself at the bat, hacking through its arms and tearing the foul creature asunder until he stands victorious with blood and gore raining down upon him. We continue with a flashback to Power's recent past, where we watch the bloody and carefree existence of the feral devil fiend. We see her growing attachment to her new feline companion, the abduction of her cat by the bat devil, and then Power's desperation as she tries to rescue the one creature in this world that she truly cares for. And as she cuddles with her cat, we're brought back to the present, where her eyes slowly open to find Denji looking down at her. Power looks up at the teenager, asking why he helped her even after her betrayal. Denji simply holds up his hand in a grabbing motion and points to her boobas. Oddly enough, the blood fiend gains some respect for the young man's determination, promising to honor her part of the deal. And as Denji thrusts his hand in the air in celebration, it's suddenly severed by a large and grotesque-looking creature known as the Leech Devil. Turns out that the Bat Devil was her companion and she's come for revenge. But even though Denji killed her partner and ruined their plans for world domination, she finds the young man attractive, and so tells him that he's free to leave, but she intends to kill Power. The Chainsaw Man isn't about to lose the woman who'll let him touch her boobas, and so he fires up his chainsaws once again. Unfortunately, due to the amount of blood he's already lost, all that emerges is a pitifully small chainsaw from his forehead. The Chainsaw Man leaps into action, hacking and slashing at the creature as he surges forward with irrepressible rage, despite the brutal hits he receives. He leaps into the air, ready to deliver the final blow, but is impaled by the leech's tongue. And as it prepares to consume the young man, we see Aki in a nearby building. The Boy Scout calls forth an enormous fox devil that chomps off the leech's head, instantly bringing an end to the foul creature. Denji later wakes up to find himself patched up in a hospital bed with Aki sitting beside him. We learn that, just like most hunters, Aki formed a contract with the fox devil at the cost of the loss of parts of his skin. The Boy Scout offers a proposal to the young man. He'll ensure that Power isn't eliminated because of her betrayal. But in exchange, Denji must obey his orders as team leader. The following day, as the roommates go about their usual routine, their somewhat peaceful morning is brought to an abrupt halt as their door is smashed open by Power, who, with Makima's approval, will be their new housemate. The Blood Fiend's ferality is too much, even for Denji. And as the young man unblocks the toilet, Power bursts into the bathroom, locking the door behind her and sitting down. The time has come for her to uphold her part of their bargain. She'll allow the young man 3 squeezes of her boobas, 1 for saving her pet, 1 for killing the leech devil, and a 3rd for protecting her. And as the episode comes to an end, we watch Denji nervously prepare to scale the twin peaks of a glorious mountain. Denji nervously prepares to indulge his greatest desire. He grabs hold of Power's boobas, kneading the soft bosoms in his hands. But he's suddenly perplexed when a breast pad falls from the Blood Fiend's chest. However, with only 2 squeezes left, the young man dives right back into it. Power triumphantly exclaims that her part of the bargain has been fulfilled. And as she walks off to her room, we see Denji stun-locked into oblivion. The following day, as the young man carries out some paperwork, Makima notices that he seems dejected and somewhat lost in thought. He reveals the details of his experience with Power and how unfulfilling it turned out to be. The woman seductively entrances the young man, caressing his hand, placing it on her boobas, nibbling on his thumb, and then whispering sweet nothings into his ear. And with his young heart racing at 200 miles an hour, Makima takes the opportunity to recruit Denji into her cause. She offers the young boy a proposal, stating that if he kills the most powerful devil in the world, she'll grant him any wish his heart desires. We get a quick flashback to Aki's youth, where we see him and his sickly younger brother walking through snow-covered woods. The pair end up having a playful snow fight, but worried about his little brother's health, Aki convinces him to grab some gloves from home. And as he watches his younger sibling enter the house, he looks on in horror as their home, along with his entire family, are instantly blown to bits by the power of the gun devil. When Denji asks how they hope to capture it, Makima reveals bullet fragments obtained from creatures corrupted by the gun devil. Their hope is to gather enough of these fragments to have a strong enough attraction that'll lead them straight to it. We later get introduced to some of the members of Aki's team of special hunters, who are on a mission to eliminate a creature that's believed to have a fragment of the gun devil. We see Aki, Arai, the very timid Kobeni, the one-eyed Himeno, and of course the 2 troublemakers, Power and Denji. Himeno says that she'll give a kiss on the cheek to whoever kills their target. Surprisingly, Denji states that he's saving his first kiss for someone he cares about. But when Himeno declares that she'll give the person a French kiss instead, Denji's romantic thoughts are tossed aside as he enthusiastically pursues the reward. As Denji and Arai jostle with each other inside the hotel in hopes of getting the kiss, a bodiless creature emerges. And when it leaps at them, Power quickly materializes a blood weapon and strikes it down. Believing that their main target is still within the building, the unit continues through the floors until Arai makes a startling observation. He asks the group to stand still, and when Power walks down the stairs and he walks to the floor above, the two eventually arrive on the same floor. And as the episode comes to an end, the group realizes that the devil thereafter has trapped them on the 8th floor. We find Aki's unit staring at a clock within one of the rooms as they come to the realization that they're trapped within an aberration of time. While some members handle the situation calmly, others like Arai and Kobeni slowly fall apart. And as the timid hunter weeps, Power bursts into laughter at how funny she looks. Denji is so nonchalant about it all that he falls asleep almost instantaneously, much to the bewilderment of most, including Aki. We get a quick flashback to Himeno's past, where we see the one-eyed hunter getting slapped across the face by another woman. Turns out that the woman was the girlfriend of her late partner, and when Aki asks why she didn't retaliate, we learn that Himeno has, unfortunately, become accustomed to the relatives of her dead partners taking their frustrations out on her. Aki suddenly walks towards the grieving woman, and when he returns, he tells his team leader that he stuck some bubble gum to the woman's clothes as payback, causing Himeno to burst into laughter. Back in the present, Aki enters the room, informing all that their situation has gotten worse. He then leads them all to a dangerous new discovery in the hallway, where they're confronted by a blobby, grotesque mass of heads known as the Eternity Devil. And as they stand before it, they find out that the creature seeks a contract with them. The devil wants them to hand over the Chainsaw Man, dead or alive, and in exchange, it'll free them from their entrapment. Kobeni suddenly emerges from the room, shakily wielding a large knife. The hysterical woman rushes towards Denji but is knocked out by Himeno, who then turns to face the creature and uses her powers against it. We learn that the huntress formed a contract with the Ghost Devil, sacrificing an eye in exchange for the use of one of its powerful and unseen arms. The ghost arm crushes part of the Eternity Devil, and as it screams in pain, the creature suddenly begins to rapidly grow, causing the group to beat a hasty retreat. Much later, we watch the group staring down an elevator shaft as the creature taunts them all. Though unable to use his Fox Devil because they've been trapped in time, Aki has another, more frightening power. But when he attempts to use it, Himeno uses her ghost to lock him down. We then learn that in exchange for using the terrifying power of his sword, Aki must sacrifice many years of his life. Meanwhile, Kobeni becomes even more hysterical and rushes towards Denji, intent on offering him up to the creature below for their salvation. But Aki steps in to shield the young boy, getting severely injured as a result. And as Power uses her blood skills to temporarily seal the Boy Scout's wounds, the group looks on as Denji, having had enough of this and determined to repay his debt to Aki, pulls his cord and leaps down the shaft, jumping straight into the cavernous jaws of the Eternity Devil. We continue with the 4th Division squad members looking on at Denji as he leaps into the jaws of the creature below. And when the young boy lands, he transforms once more into the Chainsaw Man. Denji hacks and slashes at everything around him, but soon finds himself overwhelmed by the Eternity Devil. And as Himeno looks on at the irrepressible boy below, we get a quick flashback to her past, where we see the one-eyed hunter kneeling before the cross of yet another lost partner within a sea of graves. We get introduced to Kishibe, her trainer and superior officer. Standing beside her with a flask of liquor in his hand, he provides an insightful revelation. The scar-faced hunter states that devils are not afraid of hunters who operate strictly within the confines of rules, but are instead utterly frightened by those who are unpredictable and, quite frankly, crazy. Returning to the present, we see Denji suffering immense blood loss from the attacks of the Eternity Devil. And while observing the fight, Himeno realizes that the boy below may just be crazy enough to defeat the Gun Devil, and when the young boy falls, she uses the arm of her Ghost Devil to yank his cord, firing up the Chainsaw Man once more. Denji rises to his feet, and before too long, realizes that he can use the blood all around him to continuously replenish himself. We later watch members of the unit resting within one of the hotel rooms. Turns out that the fight between Denji and the devil has been raging on for many days without a moment's pause. Back to the fight, we curiously find the Eternity Devil begging for mercy, preferring the sweet release of death to the immense pain it has suffered. And with its surrender, we watch as the chainsaw man hacks it asunder. Many days have passed since the events at the hotel. We find ourselves at a restaurant where we see all members of the 4th Division celebrating their latest victory, as well as having a welcome party for the new recruits. Upon Makima's arrival, the boss lady is questioned about why she has such interest in Denji. But rather than divulging her reasons up front, a bet is offered instead. And with that, a drinking contest begins. Unfortunately for the one-eyed hunter, Makima can really hold her alcohol. And as Himeno drunkenly looks on at Denji, she decides to give him his prize for defeating the Eternity Devil. And as the young man thoroughly enjoys the new sensation of a French kiss, he awkwardly looks on at Makima staring at them. The wonderful feel of Himeno's tongue is suddenly interrupted by a new and lumpy texture in his mouth. And as the young man tries to make sense of it, we see Himeno's drunken puke pour out of the corners of his mouth. And as the episode comes to an end, we later find ourselves in Himeno's apartment as she whispers to the deeply traumatized young man. The following morning, we see Himeno and Denji having breakfast on the balcony. Relieved that she didn't take advantage of the young man, the two eventually agree to cultivate a more plutonic relationship. Turns out that the one-eyed hunter is in love with Aki, and with Denji also professing his love for Makima, they decide to help each other fulfill their romantic dreams. Elsewhere, we see Makima aboard a train as she makes her way to a meeting. As the train goes through a tunnel, other passengers stand up from their seats. They suddenly point guns at her and her subordinates and open fire, and thus, we see her lifeless body slumped on her seat. Back in the city, we watch as multiple devil hunters, including Arai and Kobeni, find themselves ambushed by random civilians who pull out guns and shoot them. We then move to a small cafe where we find Aki, Himeno, Power, and Denji having lunch. They hear the sounds of gunfire, but believe it to be fireworks. And as they continue with their meal, a man at the next table begins to antagonize Denji. When the man pulls out a picture of himself and his grandfather, Denji recognizes the face of the old Yakuza boss who made his life hell. The grandson suddenly pulls out a gun and opens fire on the group, hitting Denji squarely in the head and Himeno in her chest. Power rushes forward, landing an uppercut that sends him flying through the window, and before he can land, Aki calls forth the Fox Devil to consume him. But as his Fox Devil tries to swallow, she suddenly exclaims that Aki has given her something truly terrible to consume. And with that, the fox head is torn apart as a sword man emerges from her mouth. Aki immediately unsheathes his own sword, commencing an ominous countdown with every strike upon his foe. And when the count reaches 0, a terrifying curse devil appears, holding the sword man in place until it rips the life out of him. Their moment of respite is brought to an end with the arrival of a petite woman who's able to bring their enemy back to life. And as Aki braces himself, the sword man cuts through him in a flash. With Power and even her own ghost devil frightened of the pair before them, Himeno resorts to drastic measures to save Aki. She strikes a deal with her ghost devil, offering all of herself in exchange for all its power. Their palms cross as the contract is forged. We then witness the full measure of the ghost devil's power emerge before the sword man. And as he desperately cuts off the devil's arms, we see Himeno lose parts of her body as the ghost devil grows in power, overwhelming their foe. But just when victory is at hand, the petite woman calls forth a snake devil that bites the ghost, severing its head from its body. And as the injured Aki turns around, he's horrified to discover that Himeno is gone. We find Aki slowly bleeding out from his injuries as he stares at Himeno's clothes. And as he does so, one of the ghost devil's severed arms maneuvers its way towards Denji, pulling on his cord and bringing the chainsaw man right back into the fight. Sparks fly as swords clash against chainsaws. The air is thick with dust and rubble as Denji sends his opponent smashing into walls. The sword man dives towards the chainsaw man, delivering powerful slashes that sunder bricks and mortar where they land. Two of the sword man's human accomplices suddenly appear beside him, pointing their guns at Denji, who makes quick work of both and takes one of them hostage. But unfortunately, this gives the swordman enough time to get into his stance and charge, slicing both the hostage and Denji in half. Back at Kyoto Station, the train arrives at its stop, and to the surprise of the waiting hunters, the doors open to reveal that Makima is still very much alive. Within the carriages, we find the corpses of her attackers with massive gaping holes in them. Much later, after a change of clothes, we learn that the boss lady has asked her subordinates to bring her 30 convicts who are serving life sentences for their crimes. We return to the swordman and his cronies as they move Denji's body parts. A crow is seen landing on a roof, signaling the impending massacre that is to come. And as one of the assailants looks on in fright, his body is suddenly squashed into a bloody pulp. We find Makima standing before kneeling and blindfolded convicts. She approaches one of the kneeling men and asks him to repeat a name out loud, and when he does so, the woman clasps her palms together, making a twisting motion as the prisoner falls dead. We then see another of the swordman's cronies suddenly get flattened. Makima goes through the kneeling convicts before her, and with each mention of a name, another assailant is utterly decimated until only Akane and the swordman remain. They desperately rush to get Denji into their van, only to look up to find Kobeni standing before them. We learn that Arai sacrificed his life to protect hers, thus unleashing the extremely dangerous part of her personality. Akane calls forth her snake devil, but Kobeni evades its attack with incredible agility, landing before the pair and severing one of the swordman's arms. She grabs a gun, firing it as she dodges every bullet sent her way until eventually grabbing hold of the chainsaw man's torso and using it as a shield. The pair make a desperate escape. And once Kobeni finds herself alone, the timid woman weeps, mourning the loss of Arai, and asking Denji to forgive her for trying to kill him at the hotel. And as the episode comes to an end, we learn that due to the amount of hunters lost, Units 1 to 4 will be merged into a single unit under Makima's leadership. Aki slowly opens his eyes to find Denji and Power at his bedside, loudly arguing over an apple. Through the pair, he learns of the immense casualties suffered by the organization, and as the boisterous duo depart, Denji, feeling sympathetic towards Aki, leaves an apple behind for him. Aki retrieves his sword and asks the cursed devil how many years he has left. The devil approaches from behind, informing him that he only has 2 years left to live, and as sparks from his lighter trigger memories of past conversations with Himeno, the young man bursts into tears. A few days later, we see Makima leading Power and Denji through a graveyard. Turns out that due to the increased threat, she's decided that they both need some serious training. And so, the trio find themselves before Himeno's old teacher, the legendary hunter named Kishibe. With barely any pleasantries exchanged, and after Makima's departure, their training begins immediately with the old man strangling the pair into unconsciousness. And as Kishibe pours blood into their mouths to resuscitate them, we learn that due to his incredible strength, he always broke his toys, as he calls them. But with one student that's immortal in Denji, and another that's semi-immortal in Power, the trainer is jubilant at the prospect of toys that won't break easily. The full moon rises in the night sky as a day of pain and repeated death has been visited upon the two students. Kishibe nonchalantly ends the day's training, leaving the pair of students banged up and confounded. The following day, as Kishibe walks towards Power and Denji's apartment, we find the pair armed with traps and, most importantly, wearing glasses to convey their big-brained idea to ambush their trainer and get some payback. With a knock on the door, their plan is set in motion as Power launches a blood spear through the door at Kishibe's head. When the trainer dodges it, the blood fiend sends down more blood spears from above that the old man dodges too. Denji leaps down behind him, ready to take advantage of the distraction, but Kishibe unleashes a powerful kick that knocks him out, bringing a swift end to the encounter. Elsewhere, we see Aki being escorted down the depths of a high-security prison for captured and unruly devils. With his fox devil refusing to return to him after what he had her consume, and only 2 years left of his life to sacrifice to the cursed devil, it's decided that if he still wishes to remain within the organization, A contract with a new devil is required. And as the episode comes to an end, we watch Aki enter a cell as the doors are locked behind him. The silence within the dimly lit cell, broken by the voice of the Time Devil. And through the darkness, a bloodshot eye emerges. The episode begins with Aki silently watching on as the exuberant yet diabolical Time Devil reveals himself. We learn that two other hunters have formed a contract with this devil, one sacrificing half their lifespan, while the other gave up their sense of smell, taste, as well as their eyesight. The creature asks the young man to stick his head into its chest so that it may look into Aki's future and determine what it'll seek as payment. A moment later, the Time Devil joyously exclaims that it'll be joining Aki and residing in his right eye. And surprisingly, it seeks no sacrifice from the young man. Turns out that the devil has learned that the Boy Scout's death will be a truly miserable and gruesome affair, and all it seeks is the opportunity to witness his demise. Elsewhere, we find the troublesome duo before their trainer. Their skills have improved significantly, and so rather than being on the verge of death, they're simply bloodied and bruised. A quick flashback to the past reveals how Makima came to learn the names of all those who participated in the assault against the Devil Hunters organization. Though initially a cordial meeting, the atmosphere soon turns disagreeable when the woman seeks the names of all the other Yakuza families that formed an alliance with the Snake Devil Girl. And as they mock and jeer at her request, Makima brings forth an ominous paper bag containing the eyes of every relative, friend, and acquaintance of all within the room, stating that the eyes will be returned to their owners once she has the list. A few days later, we find all members of Aki's newly consolidated unit outside the stronghold of the Snake Girl and the Sword Man as they prepare to capture them. And as the mission commences, Kishibe warns the normal police to be mindful of the devil hunters that lay within, as we then get a quick rundown of Aki's new unit. We see the shark fiend that can swim through anything, including solid objects, the violence fiend that has to be drugged with a mask to prevent him from going absolutely wild, the apathetic spider fiend that'll just as easily ignore you as she'd tear you apart, and finally we see the pacifist angel fiend. We later see Aki arrive on one of the floors and then make his way through a dark chamber where he finds Akane. The young man prepares himself for battle, but is shocked to discover Himeno's ghost devil standing before him. Turns out that Akane's snake can regurgitate any devil it has consumed, causing it to be under her control. And with that, she orders the ghost to attack Aki. The young man fights with all his might, using the Time Devil's abilities to gain a quick glimpse into the immediate future, allowing him to evade most of the ghost's attacks. But it's not enough. And as the episode comes to an end, Aki finds himself in the clutches of the devil, as Akane orders it to squeeze the life out of him. We see Aki gasping for breath as he kneels before the towering ghost devil. However, rather than continue with its attack, the devil curiously remains perfectly still as it thrusts forward a clenched fist. The hand opens, revealing a single death stick. And when Aki grabs the cigarette, he's heartened to see the words, "Easy Revenge," inscribed on it, suggesting that Himeno still watches over him. And as the young man grabs his sword and climbs the devil before him, we learn that due to its blindness, the ghost can only locate its foes by sensing their fear. Akane looks on in disbelief as the young man stands atop her new puppet. And with a final thanks to Himeno, promising that they'll soon be reunited, Aki severs the ghost's head. The petite woman attempts to summon another creature, but is suddenly stricken with fear as we find the timid yet terrifying Kobeni standing behind her with a knife at her throat. Elsewhere, we find the crazy duo on their way up an elevator. The doors open to a horde of zombies ambling through the corridors. Undaunted and excited about her newly improved skills, Power impulsively launches herself into the group, asking Denji to observe and even document her magnificence as she cuts through them. And as the Blood Fiend revels in the fight, the elevator doors close behind her as Denji nonchalantly makes his way to the next floor, where upon his arrival, he finds himself before the Sword Man. Their battle begins in earnest as we watch the pair burst through the windows. Through the air they fall as sparks fly from the clash of chainsaws grinding against swords. They land on the roof of a building below, and with barely a moment's pause, their fight resumes as the sword man smashes down at Denji, who barely avoids the attack. Every ferocious hack and slash between the two is met with the opponent's parry and counter, and though Denji's skills have drastically improved since their last encounter, the sword man lands a powerful kick on the young man, sending him flying through the air and falling onto the roof of a moving train below. The sword man leaps into the air, diving back down and smashing Denji through the roof of the train. And within the carriage, he twice gets into his deadly stance, ultimately severing both of Denji's arms. Bloodied, armless, and on his knees, Denji listens as the sword man mockingly tells him to beg for mercy. But the chainsaw man's spirit is indomitable. He rises to his feet, ready to confront his foe literally head-on. The two combatants lunge at each other, but once again we see Denji fall to his knees as the chainsaw on his head is shattered. However, just as the sword man revels in his perceived victory, we watch as his body splits in two, revealing that the chainsaw man materialized a chainsaw from his leg, using it to cut his foe asunder. We later find the half-naked sword man tied up beside the train. Turns out that just like Denji, with a little bit of blood, his body can be put back together. Aki eventually shows up to the party, just in time to have Denji suggest they have a contest. The rules are simple. The pair will take turns kicking their enemy in the nuts, and the one who makes him scream the loudest will be dubbed the winner. And as the Balls Devil makes another appearance, we watch the screaming sword man as Aki prays that wherever Himeno may be, she can hear the majestic music they've created for her. Many days later, we see the bonds of an unexpected friendship deepen as Power, Aki, and Denji enjoy a well-deserved day off. The pleasant day is capped off with a small feast that evening, and as Denji and Power sleep off the hearty meal, we get a peek into the young boy's dreams. And as our tale comes to an end, we see the younger version of Denji walk through an alley, eventually finding himself before a locked door where he hears the voice of Pochita. But when he tries to open it, the chainsaw devil shouts at him to stop, warning Denji to never open the door. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please smash that like and subscribe button to help the channel grow. And I'll see you all on the next anime adventure.